So I'll get to that in 1 second because I'm not very far from here. So now they also want you. Now they also have this closing amendment. So the other piece is that anytime you change anything that's in your either your prospectus or your risk factors or your pitch deck, basically, you're also supposed to keep the SEC notified of that on an ongoing basis. And that includes this what they're changing, what they're now calling this closing amendment, which basically means what the old Form D used to be, which is telling the SEC, here's what happened. We're no longer raising money, either because we raised none of it, a portion of it, all of it. We exceeded basically our maximum. Whatever it is, you're not supposed to tell the SEC. So the largest question: what happens if we miss these deadlines? Well, the problem here is that the SEC, in these new proposed rules, is going to put in to play a 1-year penalty box, as it's being referred to, or as Angel List called it, a penalty, a death penalty, basically. So they're saying that if you botch these rules, particularly the Form B before you go live, you will not be able to raise capital under Reg D Rule 506, any form of it, for 1 year. So not necessarily this new 506C that allows you to generally solicit, this Title II. Any Reg D Rule 506, which essentially means that you would need to register with the state or a federal agency before you go live. So the penalty here is pretty harsh. 1 year of not being able to raise capital using Reg D Rule 506. So here are the implications. Touched on this earlier. There's no doubt about it that you guys have all heard. Some potential investor says to you, "What happens if Google gets into this space?" And you say, "Great, Google's going to be promoting my space. That's fantastic, right?" So there's no doubt about it that more people out there telling accredited investors, wealthy individuals, institutions, there are great private investments out there that you've never known about. It means that your investment is going to have more exposure, more people thinking about getting into this space. We see the stat, which comes actually from a competitor, WeFunder, that only 3% of America's 8 million accredited investors are actually active angels. I will tell you, if you think about that stat for even 30 seconds, it's incredibly misleading. It doesn't mean they're not making private investments, but it sounded great, so I left it in here. But the point is that when startups are out there soliciting, and then they're out there, a year later soliciting for much higher valuation, and then there is an exit of those startups, it is going to get accredited investors thinking that, maybe I should put some money in early stage, and that opens up the door. And of course, the visibility for your startup increases, but of course, the visibility for competitive startups increase. So to some degree, one thing that all of us as entrepreneurs, who are all here basically fighting, big business in a lot of ways and saying, hey, we can do it better where we're smaller, have to keep in mind that Budweiser is not America's best brewed beer, but it is the one with the biggest marketing budget. So let's, just think about that. We're still going to need to be scrappy in a lot of ways. We're not going to be able to out-advertise a billion-dollar hedge fund when it comes to time about our startup. So we're going to need to know that the noise level is also going to be higher. I do think that's a good thing for all of us. We're going to need to be pretty creative as to how we communicate that we're out there raising capital. This is exactly what Bruce was saying earlier. Because I can say that I'm raising capital, I'm less likely to blow up my exemption. I'm less likely to say something that's going to have regulators calling me and my attorneys and saying, hey, when you mentioned that you have IPO potential to this potential candidate that you were going to hire, I want to let you know that you're no longer able to raise this current round. We're going to close you down for that. So it really does free up the entrepreneur from having to think about every single word they say about money. But again, going back to this, I do highly recommend, maybe I'm jaded because I've been in the securities game now, trying to do a startup based on what regulators will allow. Hire a securities attorney. Honestly, we're talking about we're talking about stuff that can get you your startup a 1-year penalty. There's a startup, Bruce and I were also talking about this before this started. There's a startup in Cincinnati that probably the CEO of the company will probably never be able to raise capital again for any startup that she ever works for. Personally, I don't see any way that her startup's going to be able to make it through what the state of Ohio is trying to put a chokehold on them. Basically kill the startup by not doing a startup that had raised $2.2 million and had a really visible face by not following securities laws. To some degree, in this case, arguably flaunting it, but you have to be careful. I would recommend that if you're going to raise capital, that it's going to be worth having an attorney who can make sure that you do the right things, even though you are a little bit more free. I'm also going to argue, yes.
I'm even going to mention here that it's not just consultant attorney. This is actually worth consulting a good attorney and paying for it. Because I'm telling you, the the downside cost is crazy, and it's out of
So,
personal experience.
I just want to tell everyone that what they're seeing in this room right now is a mini miracle. Because Bruce and I are both passionate advocates that we should all have the right to have more access to capital, and that we should all have the right to be able to invest in capital. But usually we have different approaches as to what that looks like, and somehow it falls off from there. I can't describe why. But I mean, it's really important. I mean, you can still blow up an exemption. And I would really come to believe that over the next few months to couple of years, the SEC is going to be looking for examples. In this case, this company in Ohio, there's no doubt about it that the Ohio Regulatory Authority is looking to make an example of. And again, I'm not going to predict exactly what's going to happen in this case, but I would be really surprised if that company exists in November. I'd be really surprised if that entrepreneur ever raises a dollar being the CEO of a company. Hire a good attorney for this. Yes?
Just to try and put it into perspective, so this is a rule that's been in place for the last 80 years. And so typically, a situation we would see with a startup, and we had a company we were working with that was from Massachusetts, that was an electric car company. And so they were promoting this.
How many of those are there? I don't know if you're keeping a secret.
But they were promoting this new environmentally beneficial technology. The state of Massachusetts was behind them. They were displaying this information.
You want to start so people
Yeah, sure.
can see faces?
So this is kind of a good story. It sort of provides a framework for where we've come from. And so this company was actually promoting environmentally beneficial vehicles, and they were invited by the state to display their new cars. And so they were at, this happened in Massachusetts, and they were on City Hall Plaza at one of these green tech type of demonstrations, and they just had some literature about the company right out on the table showing their new electric car. Well, they happened to be right next to the Massachusetts Division of Securities. And there was a fellow there who just was walking by during his lunch hour looking at the cars, and he looked at the information, and he saw right on it that they said they were raising money. That's all they said, was they were raising money. Well, as soon as he read that, they shut them down from raising money for the next year. And so that was really the standard rules. And what Dave's talking about is really the situation that was the norm. But what we have here is improvement. We have a law which says, okay, that's been the fact. I think Dave is being still very cautious about the fact that that could still happen if you don't follow the new regulations exactly. But just to put it in perspective, this is a major improvement. So what we expect, or what I would hope, is that you'll find that the environment becomes more relaxed, that even though it was pretty hardcore before, we're starting to open the door a little bit, and I think the SEC wants to be conscious enough to make sure that it's going to work before they open the door wider, but we're moving in the right direction.
So, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, there's a law that's been in place for 80 years. It's about to change. It's been constant, right? So there are rules and norms. So every time any of us have gone out and raised capital under an 80-year established rule, we can look around and we can ask other startups what they've done, and we can certainly botch it up. But we have some general rules and norms that we can follow and see what other startups have done and raise capital in the current environment. But the new environment, it is definitely a step in the right direction. It is going to open up capital. It's going to open up capital to your companies, assuming you're going to be raising capital if done correctly. But the law is not black and white. It's not easy for us all to read, myself included, and decide exactly what we should do about every decision along the way. And good securities attorney is going to make it easier for us to raise capital and make sure that we don't get any nasty grants from any agencies. So, double disclaimer here that my startup, Growfolio, is associated with a broker-dealer. So I don't mean to be selling myself, but I'm gonna do this by this. So who here has ever tried to raise money for your own company? Not many. All right, who here loved it? Keep your hand up if you loved it. It was awesome. All right, so actually more hands went up. That's interesting. But a lot of hands went down. The reason a lot of hands go down is because you're basically telling people that they need to part with their cold hard cash. I mean, it doesn't matter how wealthy they are, but checks of $50,000, $250,000, like that's not easy for anyone to give up. It's not easy for anyone to ask for. But now we're going to say, hey, by the way, that check you're about to hand me, can you give me your W-2 with it? Do you mind doing that? You might allow me to call your employer and give me express permission that they tell me exactly how much you made last year. Hiring a broker-dealer, to some degree, like hiring a lawyer, is going to keep you very kosher from a regulatory standpoint. It's also going to take care of this bad actor provision. It's going to take care of verifying accredited investor status. So, you know, I would really wholeheartedly tell you that you're probably making a bit of a mistake if you don't hire a securities attorney who's familiar with these new laws. You can do this on your own from a broker-dealer standpoint, but it is going to help you. And I believe it's going to be worth the money to help you raise capital. Another thing to keep in mind, you can still raise capital with the old rule, 506B, the one where you don't generally solicit. And you know, there's as you read the blogs from lawyers and accountants and prognosticators on this, some believe it'll still be very widely used, 506B, for certain scenarios. For example, well, I'm a pretty big company, and I don't really want my competitors to know that I'm raising capital, and therefore be able to download my my last couple of years of audited financials. So that might be a reason to keep it private. You might not want to become a validator of accredited investor status. So there's a lot of belief that the old way will still be used, at least in the short term. A lot of people think that the old way there'll be no use for it. So there's people on the fence about that. I guess again, it's that in the short term, next couple of years, both routes will be used. So consideration is you don't need to follow this, even though you do have your options. And last but not least, going back to this Title III thing, there's really the fact that Title II is finally moved does not really have any clear implications as to when general investment crowdfunding and accepting money from non-accredited investors will be kosher and be allowed to put that one money. So with that, I'm going to apologize. I almost never give a presentation with so few visuals, but this is pretty complicated stuff. We want to convey that. And I'm going to answer questions to the best of my ability until Brian tells me to